So I guess part of the question is, how can the Green Party grow support and break through? What we've done here is looked at a profile of accessible voters. The green at the bottom are those Canadians that said that yes, they would consider voting green. Gray, unsure, and red are the Canadians who said they would not consider voting green. And what we can see, consistent with the other stuff, is a concentration of Canadians under 40. The West being a key priority, an opportunity, and that's not a big surprise. And then after that, Ontario and Quebec. So I think strategically what we're looking at from a targeting point of view, that the West is best, at least for now in the short term, but that Ontario and Quebec both represent opportunities. Atlantic, not as much. And you know, our polling has consistently shown that Atlantic Canadians just tend to favor more traditional parties. You know, they may be the last people to kind of get on the bus, so to speak, when it comes to the future. They hang on to their traditions and loyalties very strong. That's probably going to be the one region where it will just be very difficult. There'll be other regions that would probably come to the Greens before the Atlantic provinces come over. But the other thing that's very important from a demographic perspective is just as many men as women are accessible. You know, when we look at the profile of the Conservative Party, it tends to be more driven by older men. The New Democrats by women, but you have gender parity, which is very good. You know, a lot of times, you know, when candidates are doing polling, they do a poll, for example, and they know, well, I do better among women or I do better among men. So then they hope that when they knock on the door, that either, you know, if they're a candidate or a party that does very well with women, they hope that the woman of the house answers the door so they can talk to her about her vote. But the good news for the Green Party is that it doesn't matter who answers the door, you can talk to them. So. Now, this is also something new and different that we do that I thought might be helpful. And this is kind of like my little efficiency model that I do. The blue bar is the percentage of voters that would consider voting for a party. In Le Bloc, it's just Quebec only. The black bar is the actual percentage vote. And then the red bar is the vote efficiency. So this is how good are you at getting your people out. So what we can see, the party with the highest vote efficiency is the Bloc. 57% of Quebecers would consider voting for the Bloc, and they have 42% of the vote. After them come the Conservatives. 54% of Canadians would consider voting for the Conservative. They have 36% vote, so they're at 68. Then the Liberals, and you can see the NDP, they don't do as well. 40% of Canadians would consider voting for the New Democrats. Only 18% vote for the New Democrats, 45%. But look at the Green Party. 29%, or almost 3 out of every 10 Canadians, would consider voting Green, but only 5% vote Green, with a 15% efficiency. So what does this mean? When we look at the Bloc, they're motivated. There's very tight messaging. It's a separatist party, and they're organized. That's why they're able to mobilize and be very efficient with their vote. And I think the moral to this particular story is that message and organization have to work together. You can have the best message, but if you are not organized to deliver your vote, then you're really kind of not going to accomplish what you want to do. You know, the key thing that you have to think about is how do you get into the mind of your accessible voters, and how do you get them off the couch and down the street in the election station so that they're voting for your party. And, you know, when I look at the numbers for the Green Party, you know, at this point, with all due respect, I would say this is kind of like a movement number, that this is a party that has a lot of goodwill out there. Their issues are in sync with many Canadians. They've got potential for growth, but it doesn't look, just looking at the numbers, that there are feet on the ground knocking on doors and organizing, at least compared to the parties that you're up against, who have large infrastructure. So, you know, it's one of the things where it takes more than just policy to win an election. And we know in very many elections, the best candidate, the best party, and the best leaders do not win. There are other factors at play. So conditions for Green Party growth: civic engagement. I think that particular plank fits nicely with where you're at, also fits nicely with your kind of initial growth opportunities. Anything that you can support, any policy ideas that you have that can encourage more Canadians to become engaged in the political process, that can encourage a higher voter turnout, will work in your favor, because we know that young Canadians are the least likely group to vote. You know, like if we were living in, I think it's the Netherlands or Amsterdam, where there's mandatory voting, you know, that would probably be good for the Green Party. So anything that you can craft in order to engage Canadians in a meaningful way would pay off. Messaging. I think realistically, and I'm just speaking from a research perspective, you know, you have your core base, but you have to use that as a launching pad for other things. Because you want to move beyond, you want to have what I'll say a more fulsome and complex view when voters are making the decisions that you could potentially form a government or be a partner in a government or be a player and have a full set of policy issues and policies that speak to the issues that your current voters have. Because we know that 29% of Green voters identified healthcare as the #1 issue. Well, it just shows the importance of diversifying the message. That being said, you need to diversify your message in a way where you don't sell out, because Canadians are very sophisticated. If they saw you do some crazy things, I don't know if you're considering any crazy things, but don't do them, they would, in order to kind of move yourself forward politically, they would really see through that. So I think it's one of the things where you have to, you know, be who you are, but provide a more complex view of your role in society and where you want to see things going. And then organization. You know, as I said before, without organization, it's just not going to happen, because you have to take that goodwill and convert it into someone getting up, going down the block, voting, and putting a ballot in the box with a Green Party X beside it. And this is actually probably going to be critical if there's going to be any future growth, because, and I would say this will realistically be your #1 obstacle to growth. If you can't organize yourselves, and if you don't have people on the ground, then you'll probably be at 50,000 square feet, having an impact and influencing other parties who will probably steal your ideas, at least your good ideas, and someone else will reap the benefits. So you have to be practical and think of what's on the ground in order to deliver your vote. And then finally, relevance. You know, a lot of Canadians, when they're casting their ballot, they want to feel that they can make a difference. And from my perspective, if you can accomplish items 1, items 2, items 3, then automatically you are a relevant force. If you have a vision for engaging Canadians and what kind of country that you want, if you have a diverse message that keeps to the integrity of your core brand on the environment, and if you're organized, then you will be a relevant choice. You will be on the menu. If we talk about the electoral restaurant, so to speak, you will be on the menu for Canadians and a realistic choice. So I guess just to wrap up, and I think I'm going to be taking questions, research really shows that the Green Party has a lot of goodwill and potential. But the reality is, I think, is that the ball is in your court as a party to convert that goodwill and that vision into a ballot box vote. And I think that's it. Sorry, that's it.